Foul! Oh, shame! Gascoigne going to have a crack. He is, you know. Oh, I say!
Messi. Oh, brilliant skill from Lionel Messi. Surging forward with real menace here. Brilliant from Messi. Oh, what a goal that is!
Yes, good evening. Savva here, Football Heritage TV. Trying to compose myself. I literally just ate fresh fish, curry sauce and quinoa in about 3.5 minutes while an intro was playing. So I feel very full now. Kate, hello. I'm sure you had a better dinner time than me. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm feeling good today. I can smell victory after roasting my husband on our Mr. and Mrs. Debate type show this afternoon. Have to say it was very close, but realism prevailed in a deluded society. So big up to Team Kate.
You and your husband had a masturbate and you won.
Yeah, live on stream.
Can't beat
a masturbate on stream.
Listen, everyone likes to strum every now and then, don't they, on stream? So it's all good. God knows where this is coming from. Has is absolutely. He's like, what? No, I didn't sign up for this. How are you, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you, Savva. A bit boring without the football at the moment, but there's always news with Tottenham Hotspur, isn't there? So yeah, too bad.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna tell you that, Kate. I'm just gonna let you know something. Has is not my favourite person in the world right now, because you know when you're on a 75-day diet and you're not allowed to eat food, and someone constantly sends you pictures of this is a really nice restaurant to eat in, mate. Definitely get here if you like your Turkish meat. And this guy, this guy,
that's not
this
nice.
Guy. Not nice at all, is it?
No.
Big up to everyone in the chat. Hope everyone is well. Just a little impromptu Wednesday night. Tomorrow night and Friday night going to have watch-alongs, by the way. Tonight, I'll keep you updated with the Wales-Gibraltar score. By the way, Ben Davies literally has scored right now. Ben Davies at the back post, like Erling Haaland with a header from a corner. Tomorrow night will be Spain versus Scotland, which should be a good game in the Euro 2004 qualifier. And then 2004? I've gone back 20 years. Euro 2024. And then Friday night is England versus Australia. So some good games on the horizon. Today, I want to talk about Johan Lange. Johan Lange?
We say Lange because it rhymes with Ange, but apparently it's Lange. Apparently it's Lange or something. I don't know.
Lange. Okay, well, we've signed Johan as our new technical director. In the same breath, we're hearing that Don Paratici, is staying on in a consultant's capacity. It's like my wife's ex hanging around for, I don't know. Well, I mean, I don't know what's going on there, but I want to talk today, guys. How does it all fit in? Paratici, Lange, Postecoglou, Scott Munn, Daniel Levy. How many cooks have we got in this kitchen? What's the hierarchy? Is Daniel Levy going to allow them? So a lot to go today. But let me start with you, Has. Johan Lange, I don't know too much about him other than what was reported last week and that he'd been at Villa. Do you know anything about this guy? Is this a good thing for Tottenham Hotspur?
Look, I only know as much as everyone else, to be honest with you. The facts that I do know is that he was at Copenhagen for 6 years before he came over to Aston Villa. I think he was at Wolves briefly as well as Solbaken's number 2 for a brief period again, but his longest stint was at Copenhagen, and then he went off to Villa. I think whilst he was at Villa, he brought in players such as, I believe he brought in Martinez, amongst others, Matty Cash, Ollie Watkins. Seems like a person who knows his football, since he was an assistant or assistant manager to Solbakken as well. So I think it's a good move if he's bringing in people with football knowledge who know what to look for in players when a manager comes over and says, look, this is the profile we need. I want someone there to say, right, we're on it. I know what to look out for. I know what attributes you need, etc., etc. Because I think for far too long now, Levy included. We've had people at the club who have no knowledge of football. You know, they're not football based. And you want people with footballing background who understand the game and understand what, you know, kind of players a manager needs. So for me, proof is in the pudding. You know, let's see what he can do. Let's give him time. But it does seem like to me the club are trying to restructure things from top to bottom. And you know, if we're putting together a team that's going to benefit Ange, then I'm all for it. You know, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, Kate, it's interesting, isn't it? It's not the name. Oh, I don't know what that noise is. It's not the name that it sounded like. I don't know. It felt like we were sinking or something. It's not the name I think many people were talking about. Lots of people were hoping to get Mitchell back. People were talking about Monchi before he went to Aston Villa, obviously, who technically replaced Johan Lange. Do you know a lot about him? Can we get excited when we don't really know a lot, or do you know a lot? What's your first thoughts on this?
I don't know a lot about him. My initial thought was this was all a Levy sort of ploy to put him at the forefront of the business and have Paratici cooking quietly in the background, although he's not supposed to be doing that, obviously. But I have looked into him quite a lot today. I've read quite a lot. And they are going down this Brighton-Brentford model because he is completely sort of sold on the data-led recruitment. He finds players by numbers, if you like. So, and it's working. By all accounts, it's working for the most part. He brought in some good signings of Villa. Like Has said, those ones that he mentioned, Buendia, Bailey, Ings, these are all players he brought in. He wanted Isak, who went to Newcastle in the end, but apparently the CEO overruled him and went for 3 alternative players, Buendia, Ings, and someone else instead. Right. Bailey it was. So, yeah, I don't know too much, but what I've read is quite positive. They said he's quite softly spoken and sort of just gets on with his business. He didn't get on well with Gerrard. Gerrard doesn't like that whole data model, apparently. But he apparently is going to.
He doesn't like being a good manager either, does he? So it's okay.
Well,
it's all right.
I didn't say that.
I did. It's all right.
It's going to be Ange, Lange, and Munn. That's kind of how he's bridging the gap between the two, apparently. So
all again.
Lange, and Munn.
Anyone know how we say this guy's name? What think? Is it Lange? Lang?
I don't
know. I'm just going to say Lang because it's the easiest way to say it.
I agree. Let's go with Lang. Someone will tell us in the chat, right? Someone will tell us that we're wrong, which is fine. So,
so yeah, I don't know whether we can get excited particularly. It's certainly not a bad thing, I don't think. So, all I hope is that perhaps Levy's bringing him in and he's going to actually take a step aside, maybe put the footballing side of things into more capable hands. Mm-hmm. Whether that's what's happened, I don't know, but that's what I hope every year. So
I was going to say, I mean, this is the interesting part about it. I won't go around a circle. We can just all have a general chat. This is the interesting thing, right? We've gone from Paratici's banged up and can't work for Spurs because he's a naughty boy, to Daniel Levy's doing everything, to now all of a sudden you've got Ange who likes to do his own Ange who likes to do his own scouting, Lang, who is now technical director, Scott Munn, who is chief football officer, right? I think that's his title, CFO, chief football officer.
Yeah.
Lang, Paratici, who's going to be there as a consultant. But the big thing that Kate just mentioned there is Daniel Levy can never keep these grubby little mitts away from that. Are we seeing a structure now where he's stepping away and saying, right, Scott Munn, you deal with this. Here's your budget. Here's what I'm prepared to pay salary-wise. Go on. You 4 between you run the show. Is that what we're seeing, Has? We're seeing a new Daniel Levy.
I hope so, but we've been here so many times, Savva. We've been here so many times where we're second guessing, you know, is he actually stepping back? Is he giving the reins to someone else to deal with the footballing side of things? And for me, I hope this is a new chapter. I can only hope that he's seen what Ange is doing with the limited sort of personnel around him at the moment. And I'm hoping that, he's sort of giving him the tools that he needs to build upon that. For me, the key word is that he's a technical director. So if that means he's going to be working under Scott Munn, and Munn has a team around him, then so be it. But him being the technical director tells me he's going to work very closely with Ange in identifying those players and trying to uncover those players that Ange wants, or the profile of players that Ange wants. So we all know what's happening at Aston Villa at the moment. They've brought in some really good players. I'm sure the players that I mentioned probably aren't the only players that he's had a hand in bringing over to the club. It's no coincidence that Villa are doing all right now, So perhaps we've identified that. We've stepped in. We said, look, we've got a big project here. And for him to step away from Aston Villa, right, this is the key thing for me. For him to step away from Aston Villa, who undoubtedly they're onto something good at the moment. They're playing really well. They could, do well in Europe this season, try and break into that top 6 this season. For him to step away from Aston Villa and come to Spurs, I think it says a lot, that he believes in the project that we've got at Tottenham, that it's been sold to him that, perhaps Tottenham are on a good trajectory at the moment, and this is the reason why he's moved over. Because if you look at both clubs, I mean, look, I would always say Tottenham are the bigger club, but Aston Villa, they're not a small club. They're a club up as well at the moment. They're trying to do things, so I think it's a good thing. I'm just going by good positive vibes, but like I said, we have to take things with a little bit of pinch of little pinch of salt at the moment, and just see how everything pans out, because we've been here before. And we've seen what's happened,
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, we'll if you've got any questions, get your questions in. Put a Q. I'm not saying this is a question, but put a Q, capital Q. Put the question in. We'll get to as many as possible. I can't guarantee they'll all get read out, but we will try and get to as many as possible. Paratici is responsible for every starting 11. Every person in the starting 11 except Sonny. Now, this is the interesting part, isn't it, Kate? We were told that obviously Paratici wasn't involved. Then he was. Then he's a silent person. Then he's doing this. He's doing that. I'm not sure anymore who is responsible for who. Are we saying is Paratici is responsible for Van der Ven, for Maddison, for Solomon? Who else did we sign in the summer? For Vicario? Is he Brennan Johnson? Because the reason I query this, Kate, is yes, it was under a different manager with Nuno and with Conte, but these players weren't on his radar before. We didn't look at this type of player. So can we be certain that all of those players are brought in by Paratici? It's a weird situation, isn't it, with his whole is he allowed to work, is he not type thing going on?
Yeah, I mean, there's something definitely a little bit suspect going on behind the scenes. I believe certain players, I think Vicario was most definitely one of his, because apparently he's been scouting him for years. He's followed his career. So I don't think we can, I mean, it suits the narrative right now to say everything is Paratici's job because he's wonderful, because he seems, a lot of people think he is the Messiah, but I'm not sure how much Paratici would get involved in the signing of a player like Solomon or Brennan Johnson. James Maddison. Yeah, I think a lot of that came from Ange convincing James Maddison. I'm not going to lie. I think he had a massive say in it. What I will say about Lange, whatever his name is, it does like the attacking system. Apparently, when Liverpool got thrashed 7-2 by Aston Villa, he was very integral in that. They've said today they think that his biggest signing and his most prolific signing will end up being that Duran that he's brought in, the Colombian striker.
The big powerful forward. It keeps coming on for the last sort of 15-20.
Chicago Fire, I think. Right. He's to be his best sort of signing ever. But I mean, that'll be a case of waiting and seeing. But the whole Paratici thing, I don't know how Tottenham are getting away with it, and I don't know exactly what he's doing. I mean, they say on a consultant basis. I thought he wasn't allowed to just work in football. I don't understand.
And if we're saying that all of the signings were his, I mean, Vicario, he's not allowed to deal with.
No,
I mean,
exactly.
He's allowed to say, "Hey, go and get this guy," but he's not allowed to work in it. I mean, it's all a bit confusing. You know, it's Tottenham, isn't it? It's never straightforward. But I mean, Has, when we look at that, Kate, if you don't mind me saying, you had an interesting theory earlier on when we were talking on WhatsApp, and your theory was that, and I think you mentioned it earlier in the show, that Lang had been kind of brought in more as a, hey, I've not done anything wrong. I'm a good guy. I'll be the face of Tottenham's recruitment. Where really, in reality, it's Paratici behind the scenes. Has, how do you think this is going to work? Is Paratici the number two? Is he a number two guy? When you look at his seniority, I'm not saying there's any right or wrong answers. I guess we don't really know, but in your opinion,
look, in my opinion, no one knows for sure. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So everyone's just guessing at the moment. He's still there, this, that, and the other. For me, look, we've been told that he's only sort of in an advisory role. Okay, so he's only advising. He's not under the club's payroll or anything else. I don't know, but to have someone come in as a technical director from a rival club like Aston Villa, and it's all over the news and everything else. For me, I think Paratici's done and dusted. To be honest with you, I think he would have identified players when he was there, and we've got them over the line now. But I think we can't look into it too much. I get why we do look into it, because it's Tottenham, it's Daniel Levy. We're going to ask questions. There's always going to be question marks. But, you know, at the moment, we're going through a period of change, and we need to sort of accept that change is coming until it all goes downhill. Hopefully it won't. But, yeah, I think it's done and dusted, if I'm being honest with you. The fact that it's all over the news, you know, it's made mainstream media. They've always come out and said that Paratici's been there in an advisory role, simply because he probably had so many players that he connected to the club. It would have been a bit difficult to just say, right, off you go. It's connected to so many players, and then to bring someone else in to take that over, I think would have been a bit overwhelming. Hence why we kept him on in that advisory role. But now this guy's come in, I think it'll be embarrassing if he was there as a sort of number two to Paratici, who's criminal charges or whatever that's, you know, waiting to be heard, this, that, and the other. I think it'll be embarrassing for the guy and for the club as well. You know, you can't just bring him and say,
Yeah. Sorry, we brought you in. Oh, by the way, day one, you're actually number two. You're not really our technical director. It's interesting, isn't it? Because there's lots of schools of thought when it comes to Paratici and what he's done. And look, I think with any director of football, let's be brutally honest, unless you are a director of football at a massive, massive club, and even they get it wrong, you're going to have hits and misses. So it's very easy to look at Paratici and go, look at all these great players. There's also a list of very bad players that he's bought as well. Then you could put the argument on the table and say, well, hang on. He did float players like Dybala and Maddison apparently past Conte. What centre-halves do we think he floated past Conte? Because if Van de Ven is one of his, surely that type of player would have been floated past Conte as well. So it has, you know, how good a job has Paratici done? I know it's always evolving with directors of football, Kate, because, you know, you could, if you looked at it last year, you'd probably go, oh my God, we're a mess. Look at the scouting. It's been horrible. 8 games in, everyone's going, oh my God, look at these signings. They're the best thing ever. So how do you judge a director of football? What sort of time frame? What's the metrics for a director of football?
I mean, from the majority of what fans are saying, everybody seems over the moon with Paratici. He's definitely got some good, like some things right. I mean, Bentancur, Kulusevski were 2 of the main ones. Kulu obviously is a bit like Marmite. Bentancur really impressed me since he's come in, but obviously he's injured. do you know what? It's so hard. I can see what Haz is saying. So, in other words, I assume, Haz, you're expecting Paratici to be let go of the club pretty soon. Yeah. In which case,
Yeah.
I mean, sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's right. I was just going to say, I think it's just easing him out, sort of thing, by getting someone else in, right? Like, you know, when you go for another job,
Yeah.
and it's like the person previous stays on for a couple of weeks to show you the ropes and everything else. I think it's just maybe a case of that, where because we've given him that title, essentially, we've given him that title of technical director. So then to say, well, you're a number 2 and Paratici is working behind the scenes, I think you're playing a very dangerous game there, especially with what's sort of hanging over him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
I was going to say, when it all came out, I said to Jim, well, Paratici will have to go. You know, the club won't want to be associated and have this sort of bad press wrapped around the club. Because let's be fair, it doesn't look good when you've got someone who's charged with however many counts of basically corruption. But at the same time, I do think he's kind of good at what he does. And if he's working in the background as a consultancy role, I've got no problem with that. But at the same time, it's like you say, is a guy going to come in like this Lang and say, I'm the new technical director or whatever title they're going to give him, but knowing that he isn't in full control, that Paratici's having a big say, it just feels a little bit of a mess. But I mean, I kind of hope you're right in a way, Haz, and that they can get rid of Paratici and give sole control to this guy, because I really believe too many cooks spoil the broth, and I think there could be a real conflict sort of behind the scenes, and we really need to have a team set up where everyone knows their role, everyone knows their place, and work together rather than have 2 people fighting for the same job.
Yeah, I mean, I find it interesting because, look, there's a good point somebody's made. Not this, by the way, because Jose Mourinho wasn't on Paratici, as far as I'm aware, was he? Don't think Paratici was here for Jose, was he?
No.
No. So this is a good point. And more I'll say, it's not just about what players have been signed. There's a lot of work done reorganising scouting and academy, and that's true. I look at Paratici, if we continue the Paratici portion of this show, I'm 50-50 with Paratici. I think he's made some good signings. I do feel that a lot of that at the moment is very much because we're in good form. It's very easy when we're in good form to go, oh my God, he signed Sarr. All right, well, Sarr's played eight games, essentially. Oh my God, he signed, this player, that player. So, okay, well, they've only played well for 8 games. You know, what about the last 2-3 years where players haven't played well? So I'm always, you know me, I sit on the fence, and I'm not sitting on the fence. I do like to keep my feet on the ground. I think he's got some really right. I think he's got some terribly wrong. When you look at Hill so far, has been a miss. It doesn't matter which way you look at it, it's been a miss. When you look at, for me, sorry if Barry's watching, Emerson Royale, I think he got that terribly wrong. I think when you look at Galini, is terribly wrong. Jed Spence, people will say is Levy, but I'm sorry, if you're going to give every player since to Paratici, he's got to take every player. When you look at Perisic has been very iffy. Basuma, you would say yes this year. Last year, no. So again, it's where does the fault lie? Is it Paratici? Is it Conte? But then there has been good players. Kulu, I'm just going to leave in a little island on his own. But there has been good players. Basuma, Romero, Papa Sarr coming through now. But for me, Haas, we've got to look as well. He is responsible for bringing in Conte, and he's responsible for bringing in Nuno. So if you're going to look at the goods, and I'm not knocking him, but I am. If you're going to look at the goods, you've also got to look at that, because those 2 appointments set us back 2 years as a football club, didn't it? Maybe more. So I don't know. What do you think about that?
It's a difficult one, because I honestly still think Nuno was a stopgap because they couldn't get their man. So they might have wanted Mourinho at the time. Mourinho was before Nuno, but I think Nuno was a stopgap, and they couldn't get their man before then. So, I don't know. Yeah, you have to call it out, I suppose. The good with the bad, you have to. But ultimately, there's no one in world football that gets it right every single time, right? It's worked out on the whole.
See, Ellie here is, so we're attributing Vicario, VDV, and Maddison to him. I'm not putting Kulu and Solomon in that bracket anywhere near at the moment. I wouldn't say Kulu and Solomon is excellent recruitment. Are we saying then that every signing since has been Paratici? So this is what I'm so confused about.
This is what annoys me, because if you say to the people that defend Paratici, and I'm not against him, I'm sitting on the fence here when I make this argument, but if you say Richarlison, they all go, oh, that wasn't Paratici, that was a Levy signing. And it's like, why? Why was that a Levy signing, but all these others aren't?
The ones that don't work out, don't work out are always, this is what I mean, is when you get, listen, and I just try and sit down the fence. Paratici for me,
game, isn't it? It's the blame game.
Yeah. It's like Paratici, Spence didn't work out. Oh, that wasn't his. Oh, okay, that one wasn't. Madison worked out, definitely his. Like,
exactly.
Same with Conte. We had that, didn't we? When a player didn't work out, Conte didn't want him. When it worked out, there you go. He wanted him. Yeah. So I don't know where I sit with Paratici. For me, I think there's two sides to this guy. This, like, if any of you have seen Batman, what is it? The guy with the two faces. Two-Face. Yeah, well, there you go. Two-Face. Yeah, that makes sense. There's all the financial irregularities, some poor manager choices, and some bad signings. Then on the other side of it, you've got good work being done with the youth and some good signings. So I don't know. He's just up in the air for me, up in the air. But listen, after 8 games, I can't start the whole Paratici praise like everyone else can, because I just don't think enough's happened yet.
No, and like you say, I think if you judge him, you have got to judge him as a whole. And I think you can't be selective as to who you say he brought in. I don't believe he had anything to do with Maddison coming in at all. I think he was identified. He had a short amount of time left on his contract, and Ange probably did convince him. Like Maddison said he did, and I believe it. But if you're going to say, oh, he's brilliant, he's brought in Romero, Van de Ven, all these players, you've got to say he had something to do with Richarlison coming in. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah. How did I forget that?
Yeah, exactly. So, I agree. No one can have 100% strike rate, but I don't think he's this messiah that people make him out to be.
No, I think the thing is, listen, I can't believe I forgot about Richarlison. When you look at Spence, Richarlison, Hill, Royale, Galini, there are duds in there. There's some very good signings in there as well. But let's be fair, if we hadn't have had this start to the season, would the praise be as readily available for him? Because I didn't hear nearly half as much as this praise last year when these players were crap under Conte. Do you know what I mean? Last year it was like, well, Conte's a bad man. No, he's not. It's the players we bought for him. This year, those players are brilliant, and Conte's not the good one. And do you see what I mean? Has it kind of?
Yeah, I do get it, but yeah, you're right. Of course, he would have had no praise if we had a different kind of start to the season. To be honest, it would have been like, yeah, he saw Paratici, he brought these players in, etc., etc. But also, the other thing you've got to look at, right, is somehow the club have a lot of faith in Paratici, because for everything that's happened to him or concerning him with regards to all this fraudulent stuff that he's been doing, the club could have easily washed their hands of him, right?
Yeah.
Because they could have said, right, well, you've been, accused of doing this. We don't want to associate ourselves with someone like you. See you later. But obviously, even with all that hanging over his head, the club have decided to stick by him. There's a reason that the club are sticking by him for some reason, and that's what makes me think is, well, maybe he has had more success than not if the club are still sticking by him. Because that's like me being your employee, doing something really bad, whatever, I'm going to give your company a bad name, and you're still sticking by me despite that because I'm doing such a good job. I don't really want to lose him because he's doing a great job. I'm willing to put up with whatever's hanging over his head because he's good at his job. So maybe it's that. I'm just looking into the possibilities, because if it was me, especially with FIFA sort of looming over as well, being involved in all this, I would just say, do you know what? We'll get someone else in. See you later. You know, so there's a reason why the club are sticking around. I think sticking with him. If I'm being honest with you.
Yep.
Yeah.
By the way, Big Sam, I don't think anyone's dismissed the start of the season. I'm not sure what you've heard. I don't think anyone's dismissed the start of the season. Ellie barking up the wrong tree. If people want to start putting in, yeah. He's not for me. Everyone knows my opinion on Kulu. He's okay. He just doesn't do anything for me. Look, let's move away from Paratici, because I guess we'll find this out in due course, right? I mean, if Paratici is this big don that everyone thinks he is, he won't want to sit around and be second fiddle to Lang, unless it is what Kate said. I'm more interested in, you've got Scott Munn that's come into the operation as well, right? So you've got Scott Munn new, Postecoglou's new, Lang is new. That's good. It looks like, Kate, that we're finally implementing something I've been calling for personally for years. Looks like we're finally implementing a plan where everyone's going to be hopefully on the same page, that all of these people want to see free-flowing football. I don't know so much about Paratici, but all of the others like free-flowing football. That's their style. Positives, real positives, that Spurs are actually finally going, we can't just have Levy running the show. We need to implement these things. So it is good, right?
100%. I mean, I don't know what Scott Munn will exactly do, but I kind of, well, you know, I really honestly don't. He'd be paid millions, but I don't know what he'd do. But no, my point is, I think if he comes in with this team, like I say, with this new guy as well, and Ange, maybe Levy is looking finally. I mean, he said he was going to step away before, but like you say, he can't help getting involved. He just likes to make himself busy, you know. And I know he was the chairman of the club, but maybe he's realised that, you know, step us away. I mean, he said in his fans forum that he knows he made mistakes. He said that it really affected him hearing the fans singing Levy out. Whether we believe him, I don't know if I believe him or not. But if he is telling the truth, maybe he's thinking, do you know what? I don't need this grief. I'd rather employ people to take all the crap, let them deal with the football side, and him concentrate more. Because obviously everyone knows he's a great businessman. He's just got is it the Euros 2028 being hosted at our stadium?
Yeah. We're one of the host stadiums.
Exactly.
Yeah, we celebrated that massively today, didn't they? Like pictures and everything. It was
yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, as far as getting events and all that sort of stuff, there's nobody better. He's fantastic. But maybe this is the start of a new team taking over and being in control completely of the football side. And maybe Levy will have a very final say in things, which is fine. But just don't get too meddly involved, because, you know, it just feels like it's time. And I think perhaps he has exactly. Time will tell. But that's how it kind of feels, hopefully.
Look, I think Kate summed it up nicely there. Whenever anything happens at Spurs, we are, as a fan base, naturally, please be the right time, you know, please let this be the one, because we've been burnt so many times before. So many different heads of the academy, so many different scouts, so many different, for lack of a directors of football, technical directors. We've had Paul Mitchell, we've had Baldini, Camoli, Hitchin, Paratici. You've now got Lang. You get it why people are asking questions. Like, it's not a bad thing, but people are asking questions as to, is this the time? Is this the time we finally implement something where the whole club is going in that direction?
Well, look, questions are going to be asked naturally, because we've attempted this so many times previously, where we've put a technical director in charge, we've put a footballing director in charge. All these people have come in. Ultimately, the end result is that we've had no trophies since 2008 still. You know, we've had really good results under Pochettino, where we finished consecutive, you know, in the top 3 or 4 consecutively. But is that enough? I mean, how many false dawns are we going to have? How many times are we going to appoint a technical director? I get it. The technical director has to work with a manager. They have to share the same philosophy, etc., etc. Sometimes those philosophies do not align, and ultimately one or the other ends up going the other way. So, look, I think it's something that we need to give time. We need to give Ange time. He's done so well at the moment, like I mentioned before, with the limited staff that he has. If we can get someone to complement what he already has there, then perfect. But I've seen this all too many times before with the list of names you mentioned, Savva, all too many times. We've had some success, especially if I go back down to the Harry Redknapp years. We've brought in players like Redknapp. Redknapp, did I say? Like Van der Vaart, Gareth Bale. We've had a few gems through there. Modric.
Yeah.
It's never ever been on a consistent level. Like, you look at a club like Manchester United back in the day, consistently they would add 2-3 great players every season. They'd look and identify the players that they need. Boom, done. We've never been able to hold down that consistency at Spurs because, for whatever reason, there's just been no. Look, it always comes back down to that word, consistency, right?
I don't say it a lot, but it doesn't roll off my tongue. This is the thing, right? I think this is the key thing. I think people do confuse with, I think it's positive. What's going on at Tottenham at the moment is positive, but there is that bit of you. It is once bitten, twice shy, and in this case, it's 23 years bitten, right? And that's the key thing for me. So I'm seeing people saying things like, we've got to give like somebody here. So, we must give Levy credit. And it's kind of like, well, we are 23 years in. By now, I'm not being negative about this, but by now, 23 years in, we should be an absolute well-oiled machine. We should have a fantastic academy that's pumping out players year after year. And I don't mean like when people go, oh my God, we're top of the under 18s and we're top of the under 21s. In reality, that's lovely. And I'm not poo-pooing what those kids are doing, but in reality, that doesn't mean anything unless any of them actually come through and establish themselves as first-team players at Tottenham Hotspur. So for 23 years, we've not seen that. We've not seen consistent scouting. We've not seen consistent ethos. So, after 23 years, I'm always a little bit like, But what I would say is this. What I'd love to do is I'd love to be sitting here in October 2025, right? 2 years from now, same manager, same director of football, same scouts, same academy director, a couple of those, 2 or 3 of those youth players that are now, they're not just everyone raving about them. Like people can rave about Sunsop Bell, you can rave about Santiago and Dorrans. It doesn't really mean anything unless they come in and we give them a chance. So for me, I want to sit here in 2 years' time, guys, and sorry for the rant. It's not really a rant, the monologue. I want to sit here in 2 years' time and go, you know what? Yeah, we've kept everything the same. There's been no upheaval at Spurs. There's been no melodrama. There's been no Levy sacked this manager before a cup final and this manager stormed out and this manager's got into a press conference and done this and the director of football's complaining he's not getting what he wants. That is when I think I will truly believe it. Not from one window where we got some good players, because we've had good windows before. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? Like, I know that sounds negative, but you know what I'm like. I like to. I want to punch through the ceiling, but
Yeah, we need stability at the club from the bottom to the top. It's as easy as that. All this upheaval is just not good for anybody, and it's unrest. And I mean, what I will say is that this new guy is a specialist in working with academy players. Apparently, he did it at Holland, in Holland, and brought through some good players. So that's a good thing, because we all know Ange is all about the youth and bringing the youth through. It all looks on paper like everything is going in the right direction. It all looks on paper that everything is being set up to work around this new philosophy with Ange at the centre of it. It's starting at the under 18s, under 21s. They're all playing the same way. So all we can sit here and do is hope that that's true, and that is happening. And like you say, that in 2, 3, 4 years, it's all still in place, because every time there's this upheaval at Spurs, whether it be new managers, new directors of football, it puts us back massively. Puts us back.
Agreed.
So, I just think, like you say, we just need it to be consistent and stable, and hopefully we might be able to build a foundation of something that's good for the future years to come.
And that builds onto what I was going to say, Kate. Sorry to cut you, Savva, but Spurs has always been, for me, it's been like a revolving door. There's always been changes. People coming through the door, back out again, bring in another one, back out again. Oh, we've got this plan now. He's coming in now. It's just in, out, in, out, in, out. How can you expect to have any sort of plan or consistency? Like, it's like me starting a plan. It's like you, Savva, starting this dieting plan, right? 75 days, and then 20 days into it, you're like, actually, I'm not going to do that anymore. But I'm going to do something different next week. I'll start that this week, and you're not going to get results, right? It's with anything in life, right? If you have a plan and you're consistent with that plan, you'll see results. Same thing with the club. If you identify the people that you want in place, give them a plan, say to them, look, and just signed a 4-year contract, right? We want you here 4 years and beyond that to help him, reach the potential that he wants to reach with this club. And you stick to it. You stick to it. Don't cut everyone at the first hurdle when things don't start going right. You stick to it and you see it through. The good thing I'm seeing now is all these people coming in, and strikes me as someone that, he wants to have it his way. He wanted he wanted a limited number of sort of people around him, like coaching staff. He didn't want a large number of coaching staff around him. And that probably played into Levy's hand, to be honest, because he's got to pay less. But it's what he wanted. Everything that so far he's wanted, he's got. So I'm just hoping that they stick with it now. We've got all these people in place. For me, the Scott Munn signing as well, for me, is a good thing, in my opinion, because if you look at his background, he was at Manchester City as well. He oversaw some of the most important periods in their resurgence as well. So he would be used to sort of overseeing such big changes at a football club. You need people sort of experience. You can't just put people there in place and say, look, this is what we want to do. I know you haven't got much experience, but let's see what you can do.
And this is why I think it needs time, And look, I was having a really good chat with Terry on the Football Terrace earlier. And one of the things we were saying, and Terry made a good point. He said, knock yourselves out, talk about title challenges, whatever you've got to do. But he made a point as a fan of as a non-Tottenham fan, saying, I don't know why any fans would want to heap that type of pressure on a manager that's coming in and trying to completely transform a club. And I think that was a better way of saying what I've been trying to say for weeks and weeks and weeks. It's like, there's a lot to sort out. We're changing everything. Both like we are, aren't we? We're changing the way the youth play. We're changing the first team philosophy. We're changing the way we sign players. We're changing. We've got a new CFO, or chief football officer, and a technical director, and everything's changing at the club. So there's going to be hiccups along the way, but hopefully, for me, what I'd love to see is a consistent. What you were saying, Has, a consistent transfer window philosophy. So that we know what we're getting. We know the style of player that we're going to get. And it's not just going to be random players when they become available, but actually players that Ange wants, that the club have scouted and that have been identified. And Kate, that's the big thing about making any plan work, right? A manager, I don't care. A manager is only as good to a degree as their players. You can make them play better. You can get 10% more out of the players. But you're only going to win things if you get players that are capable of winning things. And that's pretty much why every big club wins every trophy every year, right? If you look at the last 20 years of League Cups, FA Cups and Premier Leagues, it's all shared amongst the big boys because they buy the best players. So that's what we need to see. Not just the best players, but a plan.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of what I was saying in my argument today. It's not that I haven't got faith in Ange, not at all, but you can only work with the tools that you've got. You've got to rely on Levy to back him. What I will say about this Lang is he does use data, which, I mean, It's not something I've ever really looked into, but it works for Brighton, it works for Brentford. They're two clubs where it's massively successful. And he can pinpoint, so he claims, team players to fit into the team exactly as the manager wants, exactly in the system he wants, the way they play, which, you know, it does sound like this is going to be the way forward. Like everything, technology is the way forward. So if we can keep him at the team, if we can keep him sort of in the backroom staff for a consistent period, I have got faith that it will work. I really do. And the fact that he's a relatively young guy, he's 43, and although he's not young, is inexperienced in this league. I think they grow together and work together well, rather than bringing in a big, even a name like Paratici, who's quite a big name, quite a big name. You know, Ange might not feel intimidated by him. I don't want to say that because I don't think Ange is that type at all. But I just think maybe these two can work together as sort of, they're kind of wet behind the ears in this league. And guy's only a young guy, 43, and hopefully build this philosophy together. But like I said earlier, it needs to be something that's a long-term plan with the same people consistently. It's going to take time. We're overachieving massively. We're punching well above our weight at the moment, you know, but the future really, to me, looks really bright. I love the fact that we're changing everything from the bottom to the top. All we need
needed.
Yeah, 100%. Everybody's been saying it for years and years. All we really need is Levy to then have his trust in this team and say, right, you know, he's building hotels, he's building this, he's building that. I'm going to go over to that side. I'm going to manage all that side. The footballing side is yours, and just let that crack on as kind of a separate entity, if you like.
Can I just say, Scott Munn was part of the City group, which had Manchester City amongst the clubs that they looked after. I should have clarified that.
Yeah, so I know what you meant. I know
what you meant. People were asking, but yeah. So financially, he was looking after all those clubs, Man City being one of them as well. So yeah, just to clear it up for people in the chat.
I guess the thing is with all of this, I think we'll see what Spurs are about in the coming windows. And what I mean by that is, you know, if you look at our last two January windows, both of those two, if I'm not wrong, have been players coming in on the last day of the window. So Porro from this window just gone. The year before was Bentancur and Kulusevski. I think what would really show people like me, I mean, I can only talk, when I talk, I only talk about me, right? I'm not talking as all fans. For me, it would be really nice to see first week that if there are a couple of deals that they're wrapped up, that we've been working on it, you know, that it's very much identified, this is who we're getting, and not another rush around to get somebody in the last day of the window. Yeah, and spend 30 days. I mean, how many days did we spend negotiating with Porro and and Kulu and Bentancur, you know, at the time, you know, in hindsight, great signings. But before that, they weren't even the names being mentioned. It was, do you remember, it was like we tried to sign Adama Traore, we tried to sign Dan James, we tried to sign, what's his name? Luis Diaz, who obviously ended up at Liverpool.
Luis Diaz was close, apparently, but it was just down to who he wanted to go to. So
yeah, absolutely. So it'd be really good to get those, you know, get those players through the door nice and early. And I'd like to think right now we know, like Ange must look at this team now and think it needs depth. He's not stupid, right? And mostly he'll know it needs depth up top, and he'll know it needs depth at centre half. So yeah, so I want to go to a couple of questions that play into that. Here we go. So Big Sam has said, hang on, let's look at a couple of these. A lot of these are the same. So we've got Big Sam has said, you can sign two players in January. Who are they and why? Sker said, Savva, do you reckon we get a striker or a winger this January? Robert has said, how many, if any, will arrive in January? And Mark Cook has said, panel, will Levy spend at all in January? So lots of questions about January, guys, and we can wrap them all into one. What is definitely needed and what are we going to do?
Shall I start, Kate?
Yeah, you crack on.
Where do I start? I've always advocated the fact that we need at least one more centre back and an attacking mid, possibly another striker as well. Those are the three positions for me. Bearing in mind, Bentancur is going to come. I think he's training at the moment, so we've got him to come back. But like I said before, one Maddison injury or suspension away from playing without him. Where does our creativity come from? We need to add more creative depth to this team, in my opinion. Similarly, at the back in defence, an injury or a suspension to Van der Ven or Romero, and God forbid, we've got the likes of Eric Dyer or even Davies coming in to fill the void. So I think those two positions for me are the most important at the moment. We've shown that we can just about live without having Richarlison, scoring or any of the other players scoring. But I think the creativity has to be there at all times. There has to be that creative cover for Maddison. Look how worried we were. And you're right, Steve, by the way.
Hey.
Look how worried we were when it was like, oh, Maddison, he might be out. Is he injured? What are we going to do next week? Who are we going to play in his position? And everyone was like, oh, well, maybe Kulu can come in. Maybe so-and-so can come in. I look at that team, Savva, and I think, who have we got that can do exactly what Maddison does in that team? I can't see anyone.
No, I agree. I agree.
Sonny, I had someone say Sonny. No, Sonny, I don't think can play that role.
No, he's not that player. He's not that player
he's not.
at all.
Kulusevski, for me, look, the stature of Maddison is down to his fifth. I think he's built for that sort of number 10 role. And I just don't think we've got anyone else that can play the way he does. And I really think we need some backup. We need a backup for him at least. So that will be my priority along with a defender. And then if you can, source a striker from somewhere, then so be it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Steve, I'll come to you in a minute. We're just talking about what Spurs will need, what we'll do. I guess, Kate, from a lot of the questions, it was, is it going to be a winger? Is it going to be a striker? I want to tag a question of my own onto the end of that, purely because Cantab asked, will Johnson start against Fulham or keep Richie? Easy one. Were you surprised? I'll get your answer to the other question as well, but were you surprised that Spurs towards the end of the window, it wasn't an out-and-out striker that we went for and it was a Brennan Johnson? Or do you think this is all slowly part of building up and that we will go and get a striker in? Or do you know, or is he going to be happy with his forward options?
I'm not surprised he went and got Brennan Johnson at all. I think he likes players that can play in multiple positions, which Brennan Johnson can. I think he's got the pace that he likes. He's young, which again, he likes. It can develop him into what he wants. I've got high hopes for this kid. I really do. From watching previous games, I do. I think he's a real versatile little player. He doesn't come in for Richie. I'm with you, Savva. I think he should be on Kulu's side. I don't think he works on Richie's side. Richie, for me, sorry to say it, if I had my way, would never put a Spurs shirt on again. He just is not good enough. I would be in touch with Everton right now, trying to get him on loan to them from January with an obligation to buy. They need him. They miss him. He fits in there. Let them have him back. Jeez. So for me, I would start, if he's fit, I'd have Brennan Johnson in Kulu's place. Maybe even try Kulu on the other wing. I don't know, maybe. But yeah, for me, he would start. As far as January, history tells us that Levy doesn't like to spend a lot of money in January, but we need a centre-back 1,000,000%. I agree with Haz. I think we need a backup for Maddison. We've got nobody with any creativity there. Brennan Johnson's got an element of creativity, but completely different type of player.
Yeah.
And I do think we need a striker to come in, because if something happens to Sonny, I literally do not know where our goals will come from. Our team used to be the strike force were deadly, the defence were sort of open, and now it's the other way round. I feel really confident in our defence, but the strike force is just, Sonny, when he's on fire or he plays a team that doesn't play a low block, yeah, he's brilliant, but we need a different option because teams are going to suss us out and going to suss out that if they play that low block, we're going to struggle. So we need to have another option.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I don't disagree with any of that, Kate. Steve, big up. How are you, mate? You well?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I just woke up from a bit of a nap. The night shifts. My sleep schedule all flustered, but it's cool. It's cool. How are you guys doing?
Nice. Yeah, man. I think we're all good. Just watching Wales in the background beat Gibraltar 4-0, but I don't think that was ever in question. Steve, as a non-Spurs fan, we can all sit here as Spurs fans and go, we need this, we need this, we need that. What do you think is paramount for Spurs in the next part of their build, so to speak? People talk about a good 11 that we've got, but no depth. I'll go one step further. I don't think it's a good 11. I actually think it's a good 8 or 9, if I'm brutally honest. I think it's severely lacking up top. I think if you take Sonny away, I think it's a bang average front three. If our front three for a game was Richarlison, Kulu, and Johnson, I think it's okay, but nothing that screams Champions League contenders or title, that type of thing. So what do you make about the front line? And is there anywhere else on the pitch you would look to buy if you were Spurs?
I mean, Savva, you talk about Champions League winner, Premier League. I don't even think that team could, win an FA Cup or a Carabao Cup, to be honest. Like, I wouldn't put my chips down all on that front three to even go and win that competition. I know there's rotation in it, and it depends on the draw. But, yeah, I think overall it's a squad game. That's always how it has to be nowadays in football when you're one of these kind of clubs. You have to have a strong squad. You don't have that, to be honest. It definitely needs some improvements. So, yeah, I think if you could bring in a competent right back besides Emerson Royale, sorry, said it. But, someone like
I have to apologize to us. It's Barry who'll go after you, right?
Yeah. But, someone like maybe an Alexander Ba from Benfica, that would be a right back that I would be looking for. I like him a lot. And you're right. A backup to Maddison is crucial because you can't be a team. We see it with Chelsea and Nkunku. They don't look. I watched them in preseason. They had a creative, they had that outlet. No one else on that Chelsea team can do that, and you guys got the same issue. If there's no one else to create that like Maddison does, there's a huge drop off. That's a problem. Because if you're gonna build your team with attackers, that's fine. You can be Man City have De Bruyne, they could drop Foden in there. So even though De Bruyne's been out, they can try a Foden or even an Alvarez possibly to play make. But
the thing is, Steve, we've built a system that relies so heavily upon James Maddison and the two centre halves being able to bring the ball out and play a high line. That the moment you drop one of them out, now the difficulty, of course, with doing that is, first of all, it's difficult to find a James Maddison. Now it's difficult to find somebody else that can do what he can do, but it's got to come from somewhere. Just quickly, I just want to say, Big Sam has said, worse teams have won trophies than that. Let's be perfectly serious and not overdramatic. I don't think it's overdramatic to say that a front three of Kulu, Richarlison and Brennan Johnson isn't going to set the world alight. I feel like I don't think any of those three get into I don't think any of them three get anywhere near Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City, arguably Chelsea,
Newcastle,
Villa.
And clearly, and then also, you guys did struggle in the Carabao Cup when you switched up the whole squad.
Big Sam, please. I'm going to ask nicely, please. I can tell who you are already. Please. No one is expecting a UEFA Champions League level front three. You've got to listen to the context of the conversation, right? The context, okay? In one window, you're talking about winning trophies, and then in one instance, you're talking about winning trophies. Then in the next instance, you're then saying, "Why are we expecting this? Well, which one is it?" So yeah, listen. I mean, I don't know what you guys think. For me, I still think that Spurs really need a Santiago Jimenez. I think we need a guy whose game is scoring goals.
All different types of goals too. all different types of goals. With Santi, he is a big guy, but you can play him in. You could play him in, through balls and stuff like that. He can get on the end of headers. He's decent with both feet. Like that is, Chiesa would be terrific. A huge upgrade.
Yeah.
That's a Juve player that,
Top
and
player.
there aren't many Juve players nowadays where it's like, wow, because they've fallen off quite a bit. But someone like Federico Chiesa. Because that guy just picks up the ball and is just, I can go inside or I can drive in, I can shoot, pass. He's a decent creator. Like Chiesa would be absolutely someone like that. Johan Bakayoko, PSV. Someone like
you
that.
need someone that's comfortable, really comfortable picking up the ball anywhere on the pitch. Like, you can pass to me anywhere. I won't lose the ball. I think striker has to be ruthless for me.
Yeah.
You need someone that can finish, at the moment we don't have that in Richarlison. We've never had that in Richarlison. No. Comparing him to what we had in Harry Kane, you give him the ball, he's ruthless. He'll finish that straight away. He'll eat his dinner every game.
Yeah.
And it's quite the frustrating thing, isn't it? I mean, obviously he's decided to go last season, but if we'd have had someone with his finishing ability, I'm not saying Harry Kane, but someone with Harry Kane's finishing ability and his technical ability on the ball, I mean, would have been winning more convincingly, right?
Yeah, mate, I completely agree with you. Can I just ask, I mean, when I see this a lot, but what is the evidence? Like, I know we say these things quite a lot, but what is the evidence that any of these can play that role? Lo Celso, for me, I don't know. Look, we've seen many years of him in a Spurs shirt where he's not really done anything. Kulu, I don't think he's got this. I think the difference is James Maddison's not just that creativity. I think James Maddison pulls wide, both wide, to both channels. He comes back to the halfway line. He's got a good engine on him for a player that we were told doesn't work hard. I don't know if Kulu's got all of that. Yeah. I struggle with, you all know I do. I struggle with Kulu. I think he's tidy. I think he's a safe player, but I don't know where people get this whole, like Donnelly, how are we chucking Donnelly into that mix? Like when we've never seen him play.
I'm assuming that's an academy kid.
Yes.
Okay, so there you go. He's completely unproven. So you can't say, oh, he's part of that depth. And also we do have proof this season that your depth struggled when you rotated for the Carabao Cup game away to Fulham. We've seen it that those guys didn't step up. For whatever reason, they didn't step up against Fulham because that first, we all remember that first half, y'all were just not good at all.
Even in the Luton game, obviously we was 1-0 up, but we brought on, was it Skip and Højbjerg? And they sort of solidified the team, but the drop in quality is so evident because there's no creativity on the pitch. The minute Maddison goes off, there's nothing. Do you know what I mean? It's just back to like watching Conte ball again. We need to get someone in to back up for Maddison.
I think we need backup everywhere, Kate. If we're brutally honest. By the way, Peter, I wasn't saying that Kulu doesn't have the engine. There's a difference between being a hard-working winger and doing what James Maddison does. I'm not saying he doesn't have an engine. I said I'm not sure if he's got all of those things at once. I just don't see him anywhere near fit. I don't see him fit to lace James Maddison's boots.
I don't look at Kulusevski and be like, you're a playmaker.
Yeah,
I look at Maddison. I look at Maddison and I say, wow. In transition, your ball, your passing, your through balls, your vision, dribbling. You can score a free kick. You can score goals outside the box. You can. You see what I'm saying? That's the Kulusevski package. That's what he offers. Or sorry, the Maddison package. Kulusevski for me, not that player on that level. No.
I agree.
Player, but I think you could do better for a backup to Maddison. I think you could find someone that's better.
I agree. Let's get some questions. We're going to go for another 21 minutes, guys and girls. So please do smash the like button if you haven't already. We are currently on 115 likes. Come on, we should get that to at least 175. Yeah. If you haven't subscribed, you know the drill. Please do subscribe. much appreciated. Yeah, please do that. The link is in the chat. I'm just putting it in there now. Let's get to some questions, guys and girls, and we'll rattle through these as quickly as possible. Big Sam saying Lo Celso is shocking. Yeah, I've never been the biggest fan, but
he suits a La Liga team. I think that's where he's had success in his career. Maybe the league isn't just. I hate to be that guy, but sometimes it does apply, I guess, in some situations. Yeah.
Let me get this out of the way. I get a Romero question every single show. My thoughts on Romero so far this season. I think Romero's done well so far this season. I think him and Van de Ven have done well. I think there's definitely a lot of room for them to grow as a partnership. But after 8 games, it's looking promising. But it is eight games, so let's give it time. I think there's going to be games where I think we do give up a lot of chances. When you look at the stats that have gone around in terms of the chances we give up, it is quite a lot inside our own 18-yard box. But hey, listen, I think he's done well. Yeah, he's done really well. A couple of people have asked the same question. Who wants Jota from Celtic? Stuart has said, question Spanner, would you take Jota from Celtic? Now, Jota's not at Celtic, is he, at the moment? Jota's in... Right. So this is the guy that went to Saudi. I don't know the ins and outs of it. I'm not going to pretend I do. It's not worked out. And he's now a free agent. Is that correct? Played for Ange for a number of years.
They're looking at terminating his contract at the moment. He quite clearly doesn't want to be there anymore. I don't know the Saudi Arabian club that he's at, but I don't think he wants to be there anymore. Al-Ittihad, yeah. So I think they're looking to terminate the contract, and then he becomes a free agent. But in that instant, he becomes a free agent. For me, it's a no-brainer, right? Because it comes in as cover as someone who has played under Ange, who's played under his system. And let's not forget, he's a starter for the national team. He plays for the national team as well. He's not just some name out of the hat. He's an international level player who's young as well and played under Ange's system. So if he's on a free, it's a no-brainer for me. And I'm sure he will want to come as well to play under Ange.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Kulu seems to be a real
Marmite.
A real Marmite player. I guess the problem is when you have a year like you had last year, and then look, I think all I'll say is it all comes down to what is it that you want from a winger. And that leads me on to this next thing. I mean, for me, guys, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be Neto, but when I watch wingers like this, I just always think, as I've always said to you loads, right? The fullback must hate it. The fullbacks will hate their game for 90 minutes. You're playing against Diaby, playing against Neto, playing against Jared Bowen. Neto from Wolves, couple of serious injuries, but when he's on it, isn't he?
No,
yeah, he's a great So he is a great player, but his injury record does concern me a little bit. But I suppose you're going to get that with anyone. You could buy anyone and then get a bad injury and then look at Bentancur. But yeah, he's the sort of winger we've all spoke about it that we'd like to see. The thing is with Kulu, just going back to him really quickly. Obviously, in Conte's team, he fitted in more. Here, he just looks so slow and sluggish. He doesn't look. It looks like that's where the creativity dies as soon as it gets to Kulu. So I think that's why he stands out like a sore thumb. I'm not saying he's not a good player. I just don't think he fits the system at all.
I agree. I think that's the thing. When I say he's not for me, I'm not saying he's a bad footballer.
Yeah.
I just listen. We're all human beings, right? We've all got things that stimulate us. We all like different films. We all like different documentaries. We all like different music. I watch Kulu and he bores me. Whether he does a good job holding the ball up and his work, cool, great. I'm not knocking that. Great, positive. When I watch him as a winger, I've seen so many top wingers down the years at Tottenham. I watch him and I go, oh man, you're so boring. Like it's so boring. But that's just me. Other people can like him. For me, I feel when people say he's a quality player, though, I'm not seeing quality. But it is what it is. Steve, Pedro Neto.
I like him a lot. I like the fact that he's so willing to take on his man, and he's got good speed to him, dribbling trickery. That's my favorite part about him is like you don't know what the guy's gonna do, but most of the time it ends up in something good happening. He beats his man, gets a good cross into the box, or whips a shot off. Like things happen when he gets on the ball, just like how when Haas says, when you say, "Oh, Kulusevski's in the corner," you don't expect any. Has said it. He doesn't get excited, or he's like, "Oh, I know how this ends." With Neto, it's like, "Ooh, what's gonna happen here?"
Yeah.
He's one of those players, and I guess the thing at Wolves, it could improve his end product, but we've seen some wingers where they're on these kind of lower tier teams or whatever. They don't have the goals and assists or whatever you like numbers wise, but you put them on a top team, kind of like a Brennan Johnson, to be honest, but at least he has 8 goals. You can put them on one of the higher up teams and they start to shine because they're crossing the ball to Heung-min Son. They're playmaking with Madison. They're linking up with him. Some, stuff like that where they don't have that at Wolves. They struggle to finish as a team. So even if Neto gets it over to Cunha's not a reliable finisher. That's the big thing. So Neto for me, I would take a shot at him. Arsenal I look for a reason as well.
I agree. Let's move on to the next question. East London Gooner has said, who do you think is a better centre back, Romero or William Saliba? Now, before we answer that, Australian Gooner hit straight back, as you would expect, and said, "Are you serious? Even VDV is better than Romero." Now, I'll throw my hat in the ring. I'll come to you, Haas, first, but I'll throw my hat in the ring. I think William Saliba is one of the best centre-backs in world football right now. I think he is complete. And I'm not saying he can't get better. I think he's got everything, though. He is quick.
That's the scary part, Savva. He can get better.
He can get better. He's quick. Yeah. He's powerful. His reading of the game is good. He's good in the air. He's strong. He's good in the tackle. He doesn't dive in. And Arsenal hardly give away any chances every game. For me, Saliba, hands down over every centre-half in the Premier League other than Ruben Diaz. I think them two are my two. I love Stones, but I see Stones as a bit more versatile. But Saliba or Romero is the question. And then Van der Ven's better than Romero has been chucked in by Australian Gooner.
So I had this, I don't know if you saw the group chat yesterday. I had this ding-dong yesterday at work with a Gooner friend. I asked him, do you think Saliba is the best defender in the world? And he goes, by a country mile, yeah, he's the best in the world at the moment. And I was like, no, surely not. No, he is. I said, my response was, I think he's probably the best defender. And I said Ruben Diaz as well. I put him up there. Best defender in the league alongside Ruben Diaz. But I don't think he's the best defender in the world just yet. He's got a lot of potential.
Yep.
I would have to put him above Romero purely based on what I saw last season and what I'm seeing this season as well. And what I witnessed on the weekend as well with Haaland shoulder barging him and just falling over. I was like, what's that all about? I was like, no, come on.
I don't see any weaknesses, Has. I mean, the things with silly. And listen, I know people won't like it because he plays for them lot down the road. For me, he's people are going to hate this. This is not just Romero. For me, he's there. Ruben Diaz is there. I think Vardiol is top draw. Then I think there's a massive gap to the other centre halves in the league.
Militao at Real Madrid, I like him a lot.
I mean, I was going Premier League, but yeah. And then when you look across Europe, but
Araujo.
I think, Araujo, very good player. I think centre backs. I think they're nowhere near the level they were if we go back 5-10 years ago when you had top centre backs everywhere. But for me, this is no hate on Romero before everyone says it. Saliba for me is different class. That's a proper signing.
Can I tell you what he reminds me of, or who he reminds me of? He reminds me a bit of Virgil van Dijk in his pomp.
I agree. Right?
where, you know, when Virgil van Dijk was in his pomp, he could easily have two on one and he'll be comfortable. We witnessed it with Sissoko and Son, right? He had 2 on 1 and he tracked back and they couldn't get past him. That was Virgil van Dijk. Saliba gives me those vibes. He's got pace, he's got power, he's got knowledge of where to be on the pitch at the right time. I think he's got it all. And this is, you know, I can't look at it with Tottenham tinted glasses. I've got to be a realist. I'm sorry, guys, for everyone else in the chat as well. I've got to call it for what it is. He's a great defender. Okay. Same way back in the day, I used to say Henry was probably the best player in the league at the time. All right. And I was hurting inside, hurting that he was. But, you know, look, that's no discredit to Romero. I think this season he has improved a lot from last season in that he's keeping his temper in check. He's not going in for rash challenges. But maybe that's taken away some part of his game, you know. But I think he's doing all right. But Saliba for me all day long.
Kate?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. But I do think Romero gets a bad rap. It's only 8 games this season, but the changes he's made to his game have been unreal. I think since he's got the vice captaincy, he's become a different player. He's a lot more calm. He's not as rash, whether it's because he's got Van der Ven playing alongside him and that he's got the confidence knowing that if he doesn't need to make that challenge because someone will pick the ball up, I don't know. But yeah, Saliba looks a different gravy to most players in the league. But he was out for a while. You never know if this injury might come back. It could be a recurring thing. I don't know. I can't even remember what the injury was. But, you know, everyone's got a potential to get better. Romero, I know he's not a kid, but he could get better and better as time goes on. I don't think he's miles behind. I don't think Saliba is.
I do.
Yeah, I know.
For me, I think Saliba. I look at Saliba and just top player, top defender at everything. Like when I watched Saliba, now this is going to sound weird because I don't support Arsenal. He makes me feel safe. When I watch Saliba, everything about him, he just looks calm, composed, positional sense, passing. The problem is you get things like this where we see statistically, how can you statistically analyze 2 centre-backs that play in different teams that play different games each week for different managers? We've got to, this whole stats thing is driving the world mad. Like Ellie's pulled up a stinker here. Ellie's come up with a stinker here saying Neto's stats nowhere near as good as Kulu's. What time frame? Look at the teams they play for. I know if I want a winger, I know all day, every day, I'm not picking Kulusevski over this guy ever. For there's, you know, but we've got to that stage now where no one wants to use these anymore. Look at their stats. What stats am I looking at? Kulusevski scored 2 goals all of last season. Do you know what I mean? Neto was injured.
Neto's not far off that.
Yeah, well, yeah, and Neto was injured for most of last season, the season before. The season before that, when he did play 31 games, he got 13 goal contributions. But for me, it's not just about the stats. It's about the fear factor. If you put that fear factor into fullbacks, look, I don't know.
Can I ask a quick question? Who's the pairing? Saliba and
Gabriel.
See, if you ask me if I would rather have Saliba and Gabriel or Van der Ven and Romero, I'd rather have Van der Ven and Romero. I know that's controversial.
That's based on what is this based on?
That's based on just what I've seen so far, and prospects for the future. I think they will end up being a better pairing than those two.
Again, we're going on. Yeah, but again, this is heart over head, isn't it? Saliba and Gabriel last season were a formidable partnership. They've started this season again, and Arsenal have conceded less goals than us already. Yeah. So, listen, it's 8 games, but straight away, this is why I think Spurs fans get a bad rep. How are we putting that they're going to be better than these two already? I just don't know.
I think Gabriel's overrated. I honestly do. I think Saliba holds him up. I think he makes him look better than he is.
I thought you could make the case he was Arsenal's best defender towards the
end. Really?
Yeah.
See, different people see different things. I can only go, maybe it is a bit heart over head in this instance. I'm normally head over heart all day long, but I just see a Toby and Jan type duo building between Romero and Van der Ven.
Sure, but the question was, which two would you rather have? You've gone for the two that have only played 8 games together, as opposed to the two that were in a title challenge last year and that have conceded less goals this year. That's where I can't listen. I know Spurs fans I love it. Like if you go into a chat, only in a Spurs chat would you get this many people saying Romero's better than Saliba. Like I'm sorry, it's.
I do think Saliba's
Mr. Consistency.
Saliba's the pick of the bunch out of them 4.
Yeah,
I think inarguably he is the pick of the bunch for me.
Do you know what I think it is, Savva? I've got to be honest. I think being with Jim's positivity and now Jacob's in the room, I think I'm starting to feel the delusion there. Maybe that's what
Listen, I don't think, for me though, it doesn't boil down to positivity. I feel like this, honestly, we've talked about this a lot in the last 2 weeks. This whole, if you say something that goes against the grain, you're negative, and if you don't, you're positive. It's I don't quite buy that. For me, I think sometimes you got to look at facts, and I've got evidence that over an entire season, Saliba and Gabriel have a very tight defence that are very hard to beat. So far, I've got 8 games of evidence that we've done well, but we still give up. They give up a lot of chances.
If Luton had their shooting boots on, they could have grabbed 2 or 3. Let's be real.
They do give up a lot. But no. Please keep your opinion. I just think it's. I just think like we're doing this thing where, again, it's like what people say. It's like when we were talking earlier about Paratici. Spurs have done well for 8 games, and now all of a sudden, Basuma's the best midfielder in the league. Madison's the best playmaker. Vicario's the best keeper. The Doggy's the best left back. Romero and Van der, and it's kind of like, Phil
Boys, that's exactly how I feel. I'd take Van der Ven instead of Gabriel, but I would take Saliba over Romero. That's my feeling.
Half.
Yeah, half and half. Yeah. If I was brutally honest, that would be exactly the pairings I'd pick: Van der Ven and Saliba. So
I agree with you, Australian Gooner. When I watched Gabriel last year, he was solid. He was absolute. Listen, horses for courses. Ellie, give it up. If you'd rather see Kulu as a winger than Neto, I give up. Honestly, I give up. It's why not a lot comes from him. But okay. I'm looking at Neto already. He's playing for Wolves this season already. Has 5 assists in 8 Premier League games and 1 goal. Like, how far do we want to go back? Like, if we're going to do this game over 3 seasons, how far back to suit your narrative, Ellie? Because 2 seasons ago, Kulu had a good 3 or 4 months. Since then, he hasn't.
And Rick C, stats don't do it for me. Stats don't show any content.
Sorry,
I want to explain.
Play.
I want to explain something to people that I saw. I was watching a Napoli channel the other day, and the guy was talking about why he is annoyed with stats. And they showed a situation where you have Politano and Kvaratskhelia, and you have a defender either side. And there was an arrow that was looking like this. There was a ball that Politano was going to pass the ball forward to Kvaratskhelia no matter what. But there's a huge difference if the player has to turn back and receive it or if you're playing him in. Statistically, that will count as a forward pass.
Right, this is the
but
problem.
Which is the right forward pass? Which is the chance created forward pass? Which is the – and that's the only thing.
Steve, we've talked about this a lot. This is the difficult thing. When we're looking into every single stat given to mankind,
context,
right? It's very difficult. Like you guys all know, I love the stat of, oh my God, today's game, so-and-so completed 98% of their passes. Yeah, but if that person completed 58 out of 60 passes and they were all 5-yard passes, I would expect a Premier League footballer to be able to pass the ball 5 yards every single time. It's very difficult. Listen, all I know is if I'm a fullback, give me Kulu all day long to play against over Pedro Neto. Pedro Neto, I saw him absolutely ruin Liverpool in that first half. He murdered Liverpool. He murdered Man City a few times. I'm not seeing that from our wingers. And
but that's the thing with the stats.
Rick, relax, mate. Not everyone has to like him. Not everyone. He's a decent footballer. Yeah. Yeah, Ellie, you're boring me now. Sorry, this is nonsense. I mean, he was crap last year. He was absolutely crap last year. So
no one triple manned Kulu last year.
Yeah.
Nobody-
Look, just quickly, I'm going to go for another 2 minutes. Do you need to jump or?
Yeah, I'm going to jump in a minute. We've got the rival show coming up on Southview's Koi, so I'll be over there. So if anyone wants to join us after this show,
send me the link.
Yeah, I'll send you the link now. No worries.
In a private chat, yeah?
I will do, no problem. Guys, it's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Please show some love to Savva and make sure you smash that like button. Come on.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think one of the things that I find really difficult when people compare things, and I think Ellie falls into this trap more than any. I love you, Ellie, but it's like, how are we going to compare one player that's been injured loads for the last 2-3 years and played for Wolves, who are in relegation battles, versus Kulu that's playing in a team that finished 4th and 8th? Like, different managers, different systems, different formations. For me, this is why when we compare, this defender has got more clearances than this defender this year. Okay, but they play in different teams. They've played different teams. They're in different setups. It's, stats
apples and
killing
oranges.
the game.
It's apples and oranges. And with the stats, I need some context behind it. I want to see the plays that actually, like I said, with that example of, you can pass the ball forward, but are you playing him in on goal, or are you playing him in where he has to hold up and a defender can recover and just dispossess him? It's a forward pass.
Ellie, please, Neto was injured for most of last season. Like, he played sparingly here or there. And if you haven't seen him this season he's putting the fear of God into fullbacks. Liverpool, Man City, like we're not talking about rubbish teams. He's putting the fear of God into players. I'm sorry. This is where I think it gets really, really silly. If we start now, it's getting to the stage where you can name any player and no one gets into Spurs' team at the moment. I'm watching Spurs at the moment. I'm quite worried from a few of our performances. I don't mind admitting that. I'm quite worried. I thought we were poor against Luton. I thought against Sheffield United, we didn't move the ball quick enough. I thought Arsenal in the second half, we were very good. Liverpool, I thought we were really poor. And now all of a sudden, we've got fans. Ellie, please start. This is ridiculous. Okay, all right.
You got
Phil,
injured, man.
I agree. He doesn't do it for me out wide. Ellie, unfortunately, has suffered from not going and doing the research. It's just looking at the stats. Neto was injured. Everyone knows when Neto is fit, this boy is a player. It's keeping himself fit. Keeping himself fit. I listen, and when he goes to an Arsenal, and
plays a backup role to Saka, when Arsenal, they're playing against a team who bunkers down and they bring on a Neto, you'll see that he can be the difference. He can make that difference 100%. So that's the thing about squad depth. Also, here's a question for Spurs fans. Even if you rate Kulusevski, why wouldn't you want to have a stronger squad to push Kulusevski for that spot? Exactly. If you rate him that highly, he'll keep him out of the squad and reduce him to a backup. But even that is a benefit, because then Kulu will be for performing at a higher level in theory, keeping Neto out the team, let's say. Wouldn't you want that? Wouldn't you want that? Like, you don't want to just rely on Kulusevski.
Sorry, Ellie's having a mare here. Kulu, for me, all day long, much better all-round footballer. I'm sorry, Ellie. I'm calling you clueless on this one, I'm afraid. Look, for me, this is one of those arguments, right, where, like I've said this for years about Maddison. The number of Spurs fans that said to me about Maddison, lazy, could he do it? Would he step up? If he's that good, why has no one else bought him? Now Spurs have bought him, you see how good he is. Neto is one of those ones, Steve. If he was in a Spurs shirt, all of a sudden the fans would go, oh.
I was just thinking that. When you put on that white shirt.
That's what we've been missing on the right wing. That's what we've been. Listen, Kulu's a good footballer. I can't say he's not. Yeah. But as I said, does he scare players?
Not in that position. Not in that position.
Agree.
He doesn't have the pace.
Agree. All the skill. The problem is, You watch him. Look, I think neat, tidy.
Good finisher when you like put him in that
Yes.
position. Decent finisher.
But neat, tidy, does everything at his own pace. That's fine. But again, as I said, as a fullback, ask any fullback in the world, they would rather play against him than Pedro Neto. They would rather do it because Neto, you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know what you're going to get. Ellie, one plays for Wolves. Yeah, one plays for Wolves, and one has been injured for about 3 of those 5 seasons. It's
one
like
to play last season, even when he was fit with Raul Jimenez, who scored about 4 or 5 goals since his head injury for club and country. For club and country, he scored about 4, 5, 6 goals in the 2.5 years or however long it's been since he had that horrific head injury with Luis. So when you're playing with a striker that just don't score, yeah, you're gonna have less assists.
I just think sometimes as well. Look, we keep going back to seasons gone by. All I know is what I'm watching right now. I'm watching a fully fit Pedro Neto and a fully fit Kulu. One of them excites me no end.
Yeah.
The other one I'm watching and I'm going, oh God, cut inside. And it's not that he's cutting inside, going to get the ball again and then running up. It's cut inside, 5 yards, go back out on the right. Cut inside, 5 yards, go back out on the right. If anyone is interested by that, cool. I'll say this right now. Wait until we get better players than that. Fans will then start to see what I was talking about. I saw all this when people were sticking up. Oh my, Ellie, stop. He's playing for. Right, I'm going to just ignore Ellie now. It's just Ellie was one of the people last year. I'm going to call Ellie out for this now. Ellie was one of the people last year that when I was telling her how bad Antonio Conte was and how he stifled so many of these players, she went to bat for him big time. She mugged me off royally in group chats. Oh, Conte's good. It's all on the owners. Conte this. Conte's a great manager. Conte, he's a winner. Where are we now? Too much heart overhead. Anyway, listen, I'm gonna leave it there. Listen, if you're gonna come with a debate, you've got to remember the things you were saying last year. That's the key thing.
Really?
Phil said, I think we aren't getting the best out of Kulu simply due to him playing wide. But okay, let me ask you a question. All of these people who rave about Kulu are raving about that 3 or 4 month period he played well for Spurs. Where did he play? Where did he play in that team?
In a different formation. First of all,
but he played out wide. So all of a sudden, this is the problem. People like Ellie and this other person, they're giving him credit. Oh my God, look at him that season. He was amazing. All of a sudden now but he's being played out of position. Hang on, which one is it?
Yeah,
I don't know. Why are you thinking Neto is better? Because simply is not. I watched them both. Kulu is better. Ellie doesn't know a winger. I'm sorry. Listen, I'm going to drop it. If I'm sorry. Watch Neto this season. He is on fire. He is
Johan Bakayoko, Akturkoglu at Galatasaray.
Proper wingers.
Yes, exactly. Dean just read my mind. I've been raving about this guy. Raving about this guy. He took his goal against Man United super well. You don't see Kulu doing that as well.
Yeah.
Because he took...
don't be silly, Phil. Sorry. You can't knock out 3 legends of football and then say they would have struggled. Do you know Figo, Giggs, they would have done their own thing. They would have taken... I'm sorry. That's
wild. I can't lie. That's wild.
Laurie, people were asking for Pedro Neto. People were asking for Pedro Neto before we signed Brennan Johnson. Listen, at the end of the day, cool. If people rave about Kulu, keep raving about him. All I know is he's boring.
I just don't know why people wouldn't want squad competition to elevate
different
Kulu.
types in.
If Kulu is so good, bring in Pedro Neto. He'll keep him off the team. And if not, then you'll have an upgrade in that position. What do you have to lose as a squad to upgrade? Because that's the whole problem circling back just a tiny bit to the whole title talk for you guys. You can't really reasonably claim that, Spurs can win the league. You don't have the depth. So what do? You add to the depth. Neto and Kulu. Let's see if it pushes Kulu to become better.
So, I mean, do you know what? Do you know what the funny thing, Jacob, about this? If you meshed these two together, you've got a really good player. You've got the pace, and then you've got the technical ability of Kulu. Yeah. Problem is, Adama's got no technical ability, and Kulu's got zero pace.
Kulu.
Yeah, and listen, Neto. People will see about Neto. People will see. There's a reason he's already got 5 assists this season. He's got as many assists as James Maddison because he's fit and he's playing week in, week out. But listen, let's leave it there. I'm saying I'll wait for Ellie to come back and let me know she was wrong about Conte. When she does, I'll meet her halfway with Kulu. Big up, everyone. Listen, thank you to everyone. Well, listen, it's true. All last year. This guy last year. Ellie last year. All were telling me how good Conte is, and I'm harsh on Conte. Now all of a sudden, Maddison, who he didn't want, is thriving. Basuma, who he couldn't get the best out of, is thriving. Romero, he couldn't get the best. Right, Porro, who he couldn't get the best out of, is thriving. I wonder who the problem was. Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't the right fit. It was never the right fit. Never, ever the right fit.
Right.
So.
Yeah, what did you say about not judging players on a short number of games? Now you do it for Neto. Oh my God, I hate this guy. This guy, I know it is. He's getting blocked. He keeps coming into my show since I've blocked someone else. I know it is. Right, listen. Big up to everyone. Thank you so much for everyone in the chat. Really enjoyed tonight. Kate, thanks for being there from the beginning. Really, really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. No problem at all. It was a good chat. Yeah, do you know what? It is hard sometimes to take your Tottenham hat off, but I am going to stand by my. No, I know it's not for you.
Not for me.
Standing by my Saliba and VDV on my perfect combo.
Yeah. Let's just forget history and just go with it. Yeah, let's do it.
No. I've said that wrong. Not Romero and VDV. VDV and Saliba. 50-50. I'll take one from each, and there'd be my combo.
Tell you what. VDV and Saliba would be an absolute wonderful partnership.
Yeah,
and I'm going to say this, and people are going to hate it. Yeah, I think VDV is the better player out of him and Romero.
Yeah, I've said that.
I think
more
VDV,
disciplined. It comes down to discipline with Romero. It comes down to discipline. But yeah,
absolutely. I don't know, Peter. I don't know. I think he should be playing on the bench side. Big up, Kate. Thanks so much. Steve, thanks for jumping on, man. Always appreciate it. Much love.
Thanks a bunch, Sav. Yeah, it's good talking some footy, bro. Absolutely.
No worries. And listen, and we'll be back tomorrow night. I don't know who'll be joining me, but we'll be back tomorrow night. Spain versus Scotland. It's a top of the table Euro 2024 qualifier. If Spain win it, they can still win the group, I believe. And if Spain don't win it, I believe they can't catch Scotland, if I'm right in that. Big up, everyone. Thank you very much. Please smash the like button on your way out. We're going to end the show on about 140 likes. Let's get that to 150. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Really enjoyed tonight's show. We've got Trolls Limited. Yeah, we'll see you later.
Peace.